Steve Harris from Maiden and British Lion. You're listening to Andrew McCaskey from Scars and Guitars.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. Well, this one has been a long time coming, and I'm very pleased to announce that this episode features a chat with one of the greatest vocalists in hard rock and heavy metal, Tim Ripper Owens. Now, the catalyst for the chat with Tim is because he has an Australian tour. He's in Australia right now, as a matter of fact. As you'll hear, he's about to go to rehearsal in Sydney. So the tour dates and relevant links I'll put in the episode description. Now, the chat is relatively unscripted, I've got to say. I know enough about Tim's career to be able to have a conversation with him and to let him lead the conversation insofar as his comments acts as a trigger for the questions and comments that I might have that come next. But needless to say, it is a deep dive into his tenure with many groups, highlighted by KK's Priest, Judas Priest, Iced Earth, Yngwie Malmsteen, and one of the most important projects or bands that I certainly nominate of the more recent era, Leviathan Project. It was fantastic to get his lowdown on his collaboration with my mates Tom and Matt from the group. So yeah, this is one of those conversations that has been on the horizon for some time. Special thanks to my good mate John Howarth for making it happen. I must say that I really enjoyed Tim's company, and I get the sense he's got a wicked sense of humour as well as he opens up toward the end of the chat. So look, I don't want to punish guests for too long unless I get the sense that they're sort of willing to hang around for a couple of hours like my old mate Stuart Anstis was. But in Tim's case, I get the impression that there will be a few more opportunities on the horizon, so I've certainly saved enough for next time. Anyway, here he is, the great Tim Ripper Owens.
All right.
Here he is. Mate, this is very one-sided when I say this, but I've been looking forward to the possibility of this conversation, I must say, for decades now. So that it's finally happening is quite magnificent. So thank you very much for making it a reality.
Yeah, cool, man. You're welcome.
I was in the one of Minnie in the crowd at Marsden, whatever with the pub at Marsden there in Brisbane, and watched you perform just so superbly when you were delivering those Dio classics.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was a fun tour.
Yeah, I was just really. I'm a vocalist as well, although I don't sing metal. I sing covers, funnily enough. But you know, regular pub covers. I think you've been in Australia enough to know that there's usually an acoustic guitarist in the corner somewhere or a band playing somewhere. But I was just marveling at your technique and the way you're able to hold the note and the microphone, the distance between the microphone from your mouth, and how much control you have over those classic songs, because many try, mate, but very few get it right. But you, in many ways, just enhance them.
Well, I try to get it as right as I possibly can. And when you're doing Ronnie Dio, that's pretty hard.
So look, with this tour, given the length and breadth of your career and what you've accomplished and achieved and been part of, how on earth do you pick a set list?
Yeah, it's difficult, because you get some people that want to just hear my stuff, and you try to make a set list that makes everybody happy, and with this set list we have on this run of shows is great. I mean, it's got some classic Priest, it's got my Priest, it's got a nice Earth song, it's got Beyond Fear song, KK's Priest, a Dio song. It's a really nice set list of everything, and it helps when you have a great band with you, the guys, this band, we did some shows last year, and they're just great. So whatever I give them to play, they actually, I said, I think I'll add some different songs from the last time, and they were all excited because they wanted to learn more songs and different songs, and I can pick difficult songs for them, and it's really easy. So it's hard to please everybody. I still will hear people say they want to hear something from my first Winter's Bane record, and it's always hard to do it, but you got to do something that is fun. I always look at it as a fun. Listen, I don't think we're doing Breaking the Law in this set, and I always hate playing it, but you say that until you play it, and the crowd's out there, all excited. It's just, you just have to make one. I mean, you would know it doing the set list you do. and whatever songs you're playing, you always pick songs that people are going to like and want to hear no matter what, and know the song. So that's kind of what I try to do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd much rather do an acoustic version of Bark at the Moon than Sweet Caroline, but it is what it is, right?
Well, I started doing some acoustic shows years back at home. I haven't done them in a long time, but it was fun because I would pick some odd songs. That was fun to do acoustic, whether it was a song by Seal or Four Non Blondes. I'd throw in the set list. These things, Leonard Skinner's Simple Man and things. But I would throw in Neon Nights by Sabbath, and I even did Burn in Hell acoustic. So it was kind of funny to do these songs. Heaven and Hell we did acoustic, and singing acoustic, in my opinion, is harder than singing, especially when you're picking tough songs. It's harder to sing acoustic than it is to sing in a band because you have nothing there. You're really under a microscope with that. So it's fun to do different songs.
Have you ever had a performance where things have gone south and you didn't feel you were able to reel the crowd back in?
Oh, absolutely. Hopefully I don't have that on this tour. Yeah, I've had a few shows where my voice is just was really bad. There's nothing you can do with a voice. Listen, I really take care of myself and my voice. So there's really nothing you could do as a singer. That. KK said to me once, I had a bad show at Judas Priest at the beginning, and I'd go to the gym every day and swim and and I had a bad show. And he said, Tim, don't worry about it. He said, guitar players have to shut their fingers in a car door. Singers can just wake up in the day and just not have a voice. But I've had it, everybody has them. And it's an advantage of when you're singing touring solo, because if I don't think I have it, I can always take a song out of the set list. If it's KK's Priest, which is a bigger shows, really demanding set lists, there's no taking songs out of the set list. You're going to be doing it, and you better hope you have it. So now I can at least say, I can't sing Scream Machine tonight from Beyond Fear, so I'm going to take that out of the set list. But that's never the goal, is it? Your goal is to I guess someone says, what do I do to prepare? I said, I just hope that I can, pray that I can sing the songs.
Yeah.
When you get there, you're like, I don't really warm up. Not just doesn't work for my voice. So I just hope that I can sing.
Yeah, I'm with you on the warming up thing. I did for years, would just scream in the car on the way to a gig just to get at that hoarse feeling. So as I've had a bit more control, just a little bit more control. And what happened with me, just share this story quickly, was everybody else around me is a tenor. Now I know as I'm talking to you, I probably sound like that too, but actually when I sing, I'm a baritone. That's where my tone is. When I switched to that, everything opened up all of a sudden. You got to sing Wonderwall and all these songs. I can't sing that high as Liam you do naturally.
Yes, and you're talking, and I understand exactly what you're talking about, because I have a really wide range of singing. I can sing very low and very high, but there's a high natural voice that can become tough. Ronnie James Dio is a prime example of that. People don't realize how high he sings. When you go to sing Rainbow in the Dark, he's got a really high natural voice. I mean, it's, there's no sneaking in a falsetto note. When I sing my stuff or pre-stuff, I can, sneak in a falsetto note and it can cover it. But yeah, it's tough. I'm kind of a tenor, baritone tenor. But again, you nailed it right on the head. I mean, it's difficult to do the upper natural voice singing. It's not as much my style,
Yeah, I'm drawn to comment on Chris Cornell's latter day performances, which unfortunately really proved that point, because you know how high he sang.
Yeah.
God bless his soul, but he just was not getting it at all toward the end there, and that was pretty sad to see.
No, and it's funny because I learned a lot off of Chris Cornell's vocals. I was a big fan, and I learned because he was not the cleanest, and he was a pretty rough singer. I mean, it was not well polished.
Yeah.
And that's what was cool about it. That's what made him a very 70s kind of style. Sometimes I felt he just had a lot of feel, but Chris wasn't the best. And again, he's a huge influence of mine. I learned a lot from him, even from Audio Slave with Cochise, singing Cochise. I mean, how the hell am I going to sing this song? But he wasn't the best live singer, I don't think, ever. And but man, yeah, it's hard. And that's what was so amazing about Ronnie Dio. I mean, I know he tuned down the D, but that makes the songs even sound better. But for most of the songs, that's only a half step difference for him. It was only a half a step, but boy, that saved me. But still, he was great till the very end. I mean, that guy could sing so good. But yeah, it's hard, and you can't pinpoint it why you're doing that sometimes. And I went through vocal struggles for years, and I would say I was maybe 60%. I could get away with it at my solo shows, but it was a tough go. And then it just came back, and during the KK Priest tours and the album, but touring especially, I think I was probably singing vocally better than. And when you saw me, that was back when I was singing better again, starting to sing better again. But for the KK's Priest tours, which is a lot more pressure, I was singing as good as I ever have. So I felt lucky that I could get on. And I felt good. It made me feel good for KK as well, because it meant a lot to him doing KK's Priest, and he wanted to go out and blow people away. So I had that pressure on him as well. So, but yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? You don't know what you're going to get sometimes.
No, you don't. Some days you wake up and you've had a bad night the night before and you're singing like an angel, and other days you wake up rested, having been to the gym, to your point, swimming. I do a lot of swimming, and you sing like shit, and you're like, what? It's like golf. Singing reminds me so much of golf, and that you've only got a portion of control. The rest seems to be up in the ether.
Oh.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me at all?
Uh-oh. I'm losing you a little bit here. I'm losing you. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is like golf, because golf is mental. And I think vocal is a lot of mental as well. I think if you talk yourself out of singing good, sometimes that plays a part. Golf, all of a sudden, you can't swing a golf club or hit it, and you can't figure out why, but it's all up here. And I think a lot of vocal is up there as well. So hopefully, I'm actually going to leave after these interviews today and go to rehearse in Sydney, and hopefully I'm actually glad I'm rehearsing before the first show, because I just want to do it to get your voice starting to go into it. Like you said, I do the same as you. I hit some high notes. I do a little thing. I just kind of rap, sing to make sure I got my voice, make sure it's there, and then, okay, I'm ready to go. So it's nice to get my mindset right to go to a rehearsal and sing a little bit, But yeah, I've compared it to golf before. Because it's vocals, a lot of mental.
I'm mates with Tom and Matt from Leviathan Project, and I described, as I still do, Sound of Galaxies as one of the most important and relevant metal albums in years. And this is the first opportunity I'm having to talk to you about it, but I've had Tom on the show and Matt on the show a few times. So first of all, how did you get involved in the project with the fellas?
Well, I have a buddy back home who does a show and radio show or podcast now, or whatever they would call it. I think originally it was radio, but yeah, he got me a hold of him, and I just started singing some stuff on their demos and singing a little bit. I do that a lot at home. I sing on projects all the time. For people all over the world, plenty in Australia I've done, and so I've done a lot. And yeah, he got it. I just, he would they'd send me some songs, and I'd sing on it and send it back. And it's those vocals that I did on that stuff is very unpolished as well. I didn't really overdo it and overpolish it. It's very raw kind of stuff I did. It's pretty much what I gave him.
Yeah. Did you write the lyrics to that as well?
No, I think I did. I might have wrote lyrics and melodies to one or two songs, but most of them he just kind of had, and then I would add my, change a few things around, but it's pretty much their stuff. I just kind of added myself to it.
Mm. Yeah, the whole thing came together. It just puts tingles down my spine, actually, the combination of everything. But what was it that appealed to you about the songs? I mean, given I know you're a part of a lot of different things, but that one just truly stood out, and I know it resonated with a lot of people out there. So what was it about the songs, and what was going on there that resonated with you?
I think that it wasn't. It was the playing and the musicianship on it was really good, and that it wasn't overdone. It was pretty raw stuff. I mean, vocally, the approach of what I was going to be doing was some nice feel to it. I think that was it. I just like the not that the songs are basic, but I think vocally they are. And it kind of added because the music's great. I mean, the playing on it's so good, and it's basic song structures, and I like doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, and I understand there's some new material on the horizon as well. Are you part of that?
Not yet, but I'm sure they'll start sending me messages to lay some vocals down at some point here. I know I give them a better deal than anybody else gets, so they're probably fine with sending me that, knowing that the deal I'm giving them.
Yeah, I did wear my Leviathan t-shirt project to that gig at Marsden back in the day, and I've got the cassettes and the CDs. I think I bought I don't buy physical copy these days, but I made a point of buying everything in that one there because I felt so strongly about it. So there you go.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it with the guys, and look forward to hopefully laying some more vocals down.
I'd love to. I mean, that begs the question about performing live with them. Do you think that'll ever eventuate?
It would be cool, but it's so hard, between my solo touring. I mean, this year, last 2 years, it's been KK's Priest and nothing but KK's Priest. And I'm so grateful for that because I wish we were continued on right now for this summer. But, we've been at it for 2 years. So I think Ken wants to take some time off and write some new material and figure out the next stage to, plan it. But it's really hard because KK's Priest is the number one thing, that's going to be that takes precedent to anything else I'm going to do right now. But other than that, solo is kind of my bread and butter to tour solo like this. I mean, the rest of this year, I got right when I go home from this run of shows, I go home March 11th, and I go right to Central America, and then I come home for a couple weeks, and I go to South America, and I got Spain this year. That's still adding on shows in October, and Italy coming up with an all-star show with a bunch of all-star musicians. So, it's filling up. So that's kind of what I do. But if it comes up and there's an opportunity to do it, and I'm always looking forward to jamming and getting paid.
Yeah, yeah, true that. Yeah. Hey, just thinking, a question outside the box for you. I know you've worked with the great Steve DiGiorgio and Richard Christie in the past, okay? And Tim Amar is no longer with us, the vocalist that Chuck picked for Control Denied. But Stu Ham is still, Scott unfortunately isn't with us, but he was in death, sorry. So, but the nucleus of Control Denied is still there, except for Tim and Chuck, of course. But if Bobby got involved, of course, Bobby you worked with, or you had that virtual collaboration with in Leviathan Project, with the Control Denied material. If ever there was a demand for that, would you be up for stepping into his shoes?
Yeah, I mean, I would listen to what they have, what the ideas would be. I always am. I mean, listen, I'm a musician. That's what I do for a living. It's people ask why I'm so busy, why I do so much stuff. Why don't I stick to one thing? And it's like, well, you can't stick to one thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays and make a living, and that's how I make a living. I don't do anything else but music. So, I mean, they're all great guys, and it's a great thing. Yeah, I definitely would entertain that.
Mm. John Schaffer strikes me as a very intense individual, and his recent what's been going on with him in the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been, has been well publicised. So I'll say from the outset that I wish him luck as he navigates the US justice system. But what was your impression and time like working with him?
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, he did fire me, so that's kind of a bad thing. But when I was in the band, he wasn't. We didn't talk politics. It wasn't as bad thing. You didn't have so many woken people that got so upset on both sides of the political landscape. But so we didn't do any of that. So yeah, I wish him well. I mean, I think he's all fine now. I mean, he's obviously what he did was wrong. He's paid his dues by now, but I think he's been pardoned by the president now anyway. So, I think, he did what he did was wrong. He knows what he did was wrong. I know people that friends with him and told me that, but yeah, I mean, I got along with him at that time. It was a very, we're not friends. We don't talk. But I wish him well to come back and get back at his music. Everybody does things in their life that they shouldn't and is wrong, and they pay the price, and he's paid the price. Well, I mean, some of those people paid way too much of a price, but now you move on. It's like you said, it's 5 years later. I mean, let's figure this thing out.
I can't imagine why he'd have a reason to fire you. Sorry, I wasn't up to date on that. Can you give me some more background on that?
I guess he thought he could do better, so he fired me and got Matt back, which Matt is a great friend. Now Matt is a friend of mine, so go figure. How about them apples? But listen, it is what it is. It was better for me in my career. It was a great time and great records I did with Iced Earth. They were fantastic records, and Glorious Burden is great, and so I have great memories of recording and doing that. But it just didn't work out with us, and for my career, it was better. Things help you in your career. Being let go from Judas Priest helped me. I moved on to Iced Earth, and now I do better now in my career than I ever have, really. So it's all fortunate, but it just didn't work out. He didn't handle that very good, but it's a long time ago, and we've all moved on.
Look, I'd love to chat to him. I know people that know him like what you're saying, and they confirm he's a very intense bloke, and you don't. Yeah, things can go pretty awkward pretty quickly at times with him. So yeah, but I mean, you talk about awkward and things going south quickly. Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I just can't imagine what it would have been like. So I mean, I imagine you could probably write at least a couple of chapters in your biography about what it was like working with him.
Well, to be honest, we got along great. I got to be careful what I would ever. The funniest thing is I could talk really good about him, but they're just waiting to send a lawsuit, so I got to be careful. But they're probably.
If you like that, is he really that litigious? Is he?
I don't think it's him, no. But I got along great with him. He was really easy and fun to work with me. The easiest person I've ever worked with in the studio. I would record vocals and say, let me do it again. And be go, no, that's good. You got it. You'll lose that thing. Let's just do one trick. I mean, I'd be in there singing sometimes, and I'd come out to ask him how I did, and he would have wandered off to take a shit or something like that. We had I'd say a great sense of humor, complimented me all the time. And it's funny to say this, people are always waiting for me to say, listen, I'm not saying he treated everybody good, because we all know the rumors of Yngwie, but all I can say is, I don't have anything bad to say about him on the aspect of me working with him. Him alone, not the surroundings around him.
Yes.
And who's pulling, not the puppet master, but I don't, I had a lot of fun. He was a funny guy, and we had, it was a good time with him,
Okay, that's deep insight there. This is why I love these conversations, because we as fans, we love the music, but I look, I'm still Christian. This is the issue, right? And so, like, I've dived deep into the Cradle of Filth story, and I know what goes on there, and I'm friends with a lot of the ex-members who've told me very, very personal stories about their experiences, and some of them I'll share with you are quite broken by the whole experience. And you hear this about musicians, and I'm well over 1,000 interviews deep now with these sorts of things, and yeah, they're worse than toxic workplaces a lot of the time, aren't they? Quite often, to your point, it's not the person at the centre of it; it's all the periphery that are clinical.
Yeah, it's just but that's what I always shock people when I really don't have a lot of bad. I don't have personal bad stories with Yngwie himself.
There you go. Yeah, David Ellefson, you're mates with David, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always felt as though that was a partnership that was bound to happen. And I know you've done quite a bit of stuff, but are you guys potentially looking at doing something, when I say more significant, something as significant as what you're doing with KK's Priest?
Not at the moment. David's a lot like me. He's got his hands in a lot of stuff, and he's always busy doing stuff. But yeah, we've done a lot of stuff together, and he's a great guy. A lot of fun. Went through a lot early in his career with stuff. What a good guy. And he's just did some shows. His one band opened for KK's Priest in Europe on some shows, and but yeah, it's always funny. He sent me a song a while ago to sing on, and I sang on it, and I was like, man, you can send me any songs you want, because we've been friends. First time I met David was we were doing a show with Judas Priest in Mexico, Monterrey, and I went to the gym, and then Mustaine and David came in and was working out, and that was the first time I met him, and we just kind of stayed friends throughout the years, and then more friends after he left Megadeth. But he's who knows? He's always wanting to do something. We actually almost did one time. Now that I think about it, we had some guy writing songs, and I was writing them with him and singing. And I think the idea from whoever, I can't remember the guy doing it. I think his ideas were a lot bigger than what anybody else around could offer, right? So he was thinking, this is going to be this and that, and it never transpired money wise, and I think the finances weren't there, but Dave and I has played on a lot of songs together, that's for sure. So it would be fun. I'm a musician. That's what I do for a living. So if Dave calls me and says, I got an idea for this, I'm always like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I really admire David. I've had a number of conversations with him, and he just seems to bounce back from whatever shit life throws at him. But I would say that he seems to be an equally adept businessman as he is a bass player. That's certainly my take on his perspective on life.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely is a businessman, and he knows a lot more about the business than I do. That's for sure. I mean, he's I'm just that naive kid from Akron, Ohio, that people always say, yeah, you should probably not be so nice. So, but the good thing about David is he is that nice, but he is still, he's a cutthroat, knows a lot about the business, so he's not going to take any shit.
I think Chris Aiken's from Ohio too, isn't he? You know Chris Aiken, don't you?
Chris is the one from the show, from the classic metal show.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris is the one that got me hooked up with Leviathan.
Ah, okay. There you go. Yeah, Tom might have told me that. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I've known Chris for, probably a long, long time. He's been interviewing me and doing stuff for a long time.
Yeah, I really like his show. I've got to say, he inspired me a little bit with my podcast, with his fearless take on things and the way that he was just prepared to let the devil have his due, so to speak, with his opinions and fuck everybody, because you know what we do? We live in a very woke society these days, and sometimes you've just got to come out and say things, and whatever comes of it, because we're also used to, well, certainly the perception that I've got, most podcasters, metal or otherwise, they self-censor and then they encourage their guests to censor, and I haven't done that for a long time, and part of that was my inspiration from Chris, so I really admire what he does, actually. Yeah,
it's good. I mean, you guys have to censor a little less than us musicians, because I'm not one of those I'm not a political guy posting stuff, but even you do a little thing, it becomes you become Satan as an entertainer. You become people think they know you. I always say to somebody when they describe you and say you're whatever, God knows what they've called me, everything in the world. You would think I'm Satan, but I always ask, do you even have my? If you don't have my phone number, you don't know me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. So, but yeah, we need people to speak their minds, whatever they are, whatever they believe in, whatever, maybe reining in a little bit. Chris holds no punches. He lets you know. I like that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and that's the inspiring bit too. Whether you agree with him or otherwise, the fact that he's prepared to have that opinion I think, is very important.
Yeah.
Particularly, through this last six or so years or so that we've all just gone through. So, look, yeah, and when I ask this question, please answer this or otherwise don't. But, mate, the general feeling I get and the perception I've got is that the US is trending in an upward trajectory after being in let's call it the doldrums for a very long time. But what's your comment on that? Do you have anything further to add?
Well, I hope so. I think at least we're putting America first right now and people first. So I guess that's a big thing, and trying to get rid of the corruption, which is corruption in any businessman or any politician. I mean, it's all corrupt, but let's just hope. I mean, you can't do. You can just hope that you're not sitting back and letting people do things. At least we're going after things. So I hope it works out. You always do. And you know what? I hope whoever's in office or whatever's going on, political side, left or right, I always want it to work out. So I'm not sitting back and waiting, just complaining about people. I want it all to work out. So that's pretty much how I am now. We need to fix things. We had an education system that needs to go to the States. That was a disaster. We have a lot of things that could be fixed, and whoever wants to fix it, again, I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, Independent, whoever the hell, just someone get in there and fix things.
Look, you've traveled a lot and further than just about anybody, really, but I'm sure you're aware of that there's significant anti-American sentiment out there. But what I always say to people who have that sentiment is the world does not benefit from a weak America. We need a strong America democratically. It's where democracy as we know it has come from. And if we don't have that, that torch burning bright, then it starts to inspire those who have nefarious intentions elsewhere in the world, because God knows, outside of the Western Hemisphere, mate, my wife's family live in the Philippines, and that's not bad there either, but it's a lot worse than it is here in Australia or the United States. It's you need these strong democracies, is my point.
You're right. I've always said to people when they complain, like if an American complains about America, I'm like, listen, I travel the world, and you got places like Australia and the UK and America and Germany. There's so many nice, great places all over the world, and you need to stop complaining. I think the problem is around the world. And this is even us, our perception of other places. I mean, in America, when COVID hit, it looked like Australia, the way the news was, Australia was never going to be back again. Like this place is never, that's how that was portrayed on social media. When you're getting your news off of Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, fake people, I think that's the issue. I mean, I walk out of my house and go to the store in America, and everything's fine. I don't see anything going on. I don't see, so it's obviously there's issues everywhere, and but people in other places looking at news on social media and getting that's what they think it is. I mean, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. I know. But yeah, social media, it's what do you do? What can you do, really, these days? The genie's out of the bottle, as they say. And I know they're trying to put laws in Australia so under 16-year-olds can't use it and stuff. I mean, there's ridiculous laws that are taking the ability for parents to actually be parents instead of and have the state come across and have more state control. We've got a left-wing government in power at the moment, and they love those sorts of laws. So I don't know, mate. I
Well,
believe, yeah.
you're going to be like England putting people in jail for bad posts on Facebook. I mean, when you start going to people's houses and taking them to jail because they didn't like their post on social media, then you're in trouble. But it's where we're at, and there's good and there's bad. I mean, that's just how it is. There's good with it and bad with it, and I think in this day and age, people think they know everything. They're so upset about everything, and then they get on and cry and color their hair purple and scream and yell like this is the end of the world. I'm like, man, there's some crazy ass people out there.
Yeah, I'm drawn to. By the way, someone in Melbourne was arrested for a social media post, so you're not wrong. That's unfortunately it's already happened here a few times. But I remember with my wife's family, and like my mother-in-law is Cebuano. She is Filipino. We couldn't find. It took us about 8 or 9 hours to find a doctor. Is my point when we're in Cebu, and because I had an infection too, and my daughter was really sick at the time, and she needed some antibiotics, and 8 or 9 hours, we got sent to dentists, all sorts of things. They could not understand that we wanted to see a general practitioner, just a regular doctor. And to your point, you see all the blue hairs and stuff that want to. What's the recent thing here in Australia? They try to put paint and they smash apart the statues. So Captain Cook.
Yeah. We need to get rid of when you're erasing history, good or bad.
Yeah. They do this stuff, mate, but they don't understand. They're just not well traveled. They don't understand what life is actually like in parts of the world where you don't have service and infrastructure.
You just sit back and hope for the best, and you use common sense, and sometimes it's not, even using common sense doesn't mean it's going to be.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. Who are you closest to in Priest outside of KK?
Really nobody anymore. I mean, I'm not that I'm not. We all went our separate ways, right? We all had our things going on, and I mean, listen, just a fantastic time with the guys. The great thing about getting in Judas Priest was they were my idols, but we became. It's like family and friends. It was like a family. They treated me so great. It was so much fun. So it just when Rob came back, and I'm friends with Rob as well. When he came back, it's just everybody did their own thing. They got busy doing that. I got busy doing my thing. And Ken was the only one. KK was the only one that really came out to my shows. Glenn and KK came out to one, and that was when Iced Earth opened for Heaven and Hell in Birmingham. But KK would drive 2 hours to come to my solo shows in Manchester and stuff. He'd always come out and hang out. So, but I'm friends with all of them. I haven't had any contact with them in years.
Yeah. You were selling vinyl at the show that I attended to was it Demolition as well as Jugulator, I think it was. Now, those albums, I'm just checking. The reason I'm looking on my computer at the moment is I'm trying to see, last time I checked, neither of them were available on streaming platforms, and that is indeed the case. Spotify in Australia, for example, doesn't have those two albums. Now, I'm not pissing in your pocket, but I would say that Jugulator would be my favourite Priest album because that was my entry. Okay, yeah. So I think I got maybe Painkiller just before it, but that was the in-market album, if that makes sense. And that, in my experience, tends to be the one that you tend to reference, Testament, it's demonic, etc. for me, this sort of thing. But just talking about, or if you can talk about what you can possibly do to get that album back on streaming platforms so that people can actually hear it again instead of the 2-bit shit that's on YouTube. Is that, what can you do there, do you think?
Yeah, in America, we do have Demolition on I think, iTunes and Spotify. Jugulator's gone. It's nowhere to be found. It's a real shame, isn't it? I mean, listen, nobody's going to make money off of it except them. I'm not making any. So that, if they would release that on vinyl and release stuff, I don't really know what the reasoning is. I know it was on a different label, but then again, they put Jugulator in one of their box sets. That last $500 box set they put out, Jugulator was actually in it. So they have to have rights to it. KK can't understand it either. He's not quite sure why. It doesn't hurt anybody to put him out there. I mean, I don't know who's who has to be in their bonnet in that band, but somebody does. And, it's a shame, but, I guess people, it's a shame for the fans, isn't it really? I mean, that they've erased that era. But we got, the good thing is, for me, I released a record that's, I think, better than both of them with the last KK's Priest record and even my solo EP. So, but it's a shame that it's not out there.
Look, I'm sure you're aware of some of the commentary about what I'm about to mention, but Iron Maiden picked a vocalist that really was not suitable for them at all through that period, whereas Judas Priest did pick a vocalist that was very suitable for them through that period. And the contrast between the two is quite significant, but both tenures ended, unfortunately. It's just the way things go. The original vocalists come back in. But was there any conversation about you potentially having anything to do with Iron Maiden when things with Blaze weren't going well?
No, because I was already in Judas Priest then. Blaze left Judas Priest, or left Ice Earth when I was in Judas Priest, so there wasn't any. And you know what? Yeah, that would never happen. But there was no comment. And Blaze and I are, it is a shame. Blaze is a great musician, smart, great. His solo stuff is fantastic. I think he's he's a lot of fun to tour. We do a lot of tours together. But there was never any conversation about that.
Yeah, sorry, I realise I put you in a bit of a spot with that one there, but I thought it was important to ask the question because I agree with you completely, and fans do too, that his solo material works because he has a very bluesy timbre to his voice that I just can't imagine what... I've spoken to Steve a couple of times about it, and I've asked him, I said, why didn't you tune down?
It's exactly right. I mean, no one can really know. We tuned down on live in Judas Priest, and the reason why we did, not because KK's Priest is tuned the same. We're tuned back up. So I'm doing Victim of Changes and Beyond Realms of Death and all those songs in normal tuning. Not only am I doing them in a E flat, I'm doing them in is my Judas Priest songs are going up 1-2 steps to sing the songs. But we tuned in D live because our songs were so low. We had songs in C, we had Hell is Home in C, and we had songs, most of them were in D or C. We even had one in B. So we did it so we could just have one guitar and play it. We didn't do it for the vocals, but it's only a half a step, so it's not that big of a deal. But I don't know why it makes no sense. It's pretty cool. They still don't tune down live. Bruce is like, no way. Now I'm telling you, that's crazy, man, because his style is so hard. The older you get too, and he's just on it. So but I don't get it. I totally agree. A half a step, tuned down. No one's gonna really know. I mean, Ronnie Dio did, Black Sabbath did, Dio did. Everybody does it, and some of that stuff's gonna make it sound heavier. So why not? Why not make it easier on everybody?
Yeah, no, I'm hearing you. Yeah. Hey, just a couple more questions then for you. I meant to ask you earlier, Ralph Santola, I didn't know him well enough to call him a mate, but we certainly, we had a friendship. But you worked with him on the Iced Earth albums too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Sad passing with Ralph, but yeah, we did tour together, and he was a talented and nice guy. He was a really talented player, really nice guy.
Yeah, extraordinary player. He really reminted Deicide. He brought them right out of where they were at and gave them the second half of their career, in my opinion.
He was a great guy, great player.
Yeah. Okay, just looking toward the future. I know you've got your irons in many different fires, and you're really at the peak of your game right now in many respects. But what's your grandest hope and greatest hope for the future?
Well, I'm looking forward to touring more with KK's Priest is the big one for me. I'm really looking forward to that. I love doing that, so I'm looking forward to recording a new record or just getting out there. One when I found out we didn't have any plans this year, I had to fill it in. You know, that's how I make a living. So I filled it in with, you know, I don't know if there was going to be any plans later in the year, but you know, I got to keep the lights on at home, so I have to do it. But I'm looking forward most to continuing KK's Priest and getting back on the road. I'm looking forward to recording a new record, but I'm really looking forward to touring. I mean, hopefully we can get it back out there.
Yeah. Hey, just quickly, have you ever thought about, and you may have done this, so apologies if you have, but radio hosting or podcast hosting and something that's syndicated, something like that, just with the amount of work that you've done and the amount of friendships that you've built up, your conversations would be fascinating.
Yeah, I have, and it's funny you say that because there's a couple buddies. I go to their house, and I don't have beers very often, but I'll go to their house and we'll sit and watch funny videos and podcasts. And he's always like, "You should do one," and I'm like, "I should do one." So my last conversation with him, Chuck's his name. My last conversation before I left, he said, "Hey, I'm going to start looking up how to get all the info on the podcast, and we're gonna do a podcast, and do it." So, yeah, it's always been a thought of mine, and I start doing it, and then I start recording, and I put it to the side.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and mate, finally, the book. It's got to be on the horizon at some point in time. Have you thought about that, the biography?
Yeah, I was going to do a coloring book. I think a coloring book for, like one page will be Yngwie coloring whatever color you want. That'll be the headline. Glenn and KK, that's going to be my coloring book. That would be pretty good. Why don't I do that? Why don't I do a coloring book with everybody that I played with? That would be the biggest coloring book ever. But you know what? To be honest, be serious. Actually, I think I might take that idea. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I'd like to do one. I don't know if I can talk about everything in my career. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's, there's bands that can do that because they were known as being, they come up in the 80s and the 70s and 80s. So there's things they've done in their career. They like to talk about it because they were into that. But I don't know. I don't necessarily want to throw people under the bus. I think it might be a little bit boring because I'm not going to talk about everything. But on the other hand, I guess I do have a lot to talk about, and maybe talking about everything would be a pretty good idea. It could make me look a little more adventurous too. I can make things up.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. But look, I'm not giving you advice. I'm certainly not one to solicit advice on the show, that's for sure, especially not someone in your position. But I ghostwrite the biographies, so I've done that. And
there you go.
Yeah, I just suggest you get it done now and put it in the vault. So, you know where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
Just put the markers down. Just don't release it. But at least, because what I'm finding is the musicians, as you get older, it's not that you forget, but your perspective on things change and you just look at it as part of the grander whole rather than the detail. And I've really found that with the musicians who are in their 60s and 70s. And I've implored some of them. I said, you've got to tell us stories. But these are tours that happened in the 80s at the height of the cocaine blitz and all this sort of shit. And but they're the things that, to be honest, they're the things that are the most interesting to read about. Look at The Dirt and Motley Crue's book.
Well, yeah, I don't have a lot of it in my time. Like touring with Priest is a pretty good tour, but I could make that up. I could just put cocaine parties and midgets and whatever. It could be a whole thing. But I've said this. I will write a book, but I'm not writing a book that's not paying me, because I see so many musicians and so many people write books, and I know they haven't made much money from it. And I'm not saying I'm going to be super rich, but I've always said if I'm writing a book, it's paying me. It's paying me to write the book. I'm not just putting it out there to put it out there. I got to retire at some point. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've had one hell of a career. Just a kid from Akron, Ohio, that's, done and played with the musicians that I have. And, all because of Judas Priest giving me a break to and a chance to sing for him. And yeah, I mean, it's the just a book on who I've played with and when I've jammed with them, whether it was Ace Frehley or Scott Ian or whoever it's been, and it's pretty crazy because again, I'm still just a fan and a kid from Akron, Ohio that gets to do what I do.
Yeah, and then look, that's always come across, to be honest, like that you're when I say you're one of us, your personality is you're also a fan, but you've got this extraordinary gift and this talent, and you've always seemed very approachable through the years, and this is our first opportunity having a chat, so that proves it. But yeah,
listen, if I was woke, I would say, "What do you mean, one of us?"
Yeah, you're not wrong.
What do you mean, one of us? What do you say? Okay. I am almost half Australian now because I'm here enough. So how about that?
Well, there you go. Yeah, well, don't mill about Melbourne too much. They're very woke down there.
So when my coffee mug says "cunt" on it, you know that I've made it.
Yeah, you do. You're definitely one of us if you've got a cunt coffee mug. That's pretty much a standard issue when you've come back about 3 or 4 times, isn't it? At the customs department there, they hand it to you.
Yeah, and I have the same mug at home. So when I do my interviews, which I just did a whole bunch of them for Australia, but when I do them, I love to watch the American press when I'm holding a cunt mug.
Do they know what it means? Is that word familiar, part of the American lexicon?
Well, it is, but not the same. It's not liked there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing there. I've always said it's funny about America. Yeah, if you say cunt, man, that's going to raise not just the colored hair people, but anybody's woman's head up there. They're going to be pretty upset with you. But you can say dick and call someone you can call someone a dick or you can call those kind of words, but you can't say that. But I love to say it. When I started saying it years ago because of going to the UK, right? So I would come home and go on stage and call the crowd cunts because I would say, listen, I would say, oi cunt, chuck us a tinny. I got it down. So I think I've offended a few people along the way.
I'm glad. Well, yeah, British and Australian parlance is fairly uniquely similar. I've got to say, it's just one of those things. But mate, it's been a great chat. I really appreciate you sharing as much of your story with me and with the people listening as well. I know this one, people have been waiting for this one. I've been putting it out there into the ether that hopefully it would happen. And I'm really good mates with John. And I said to him when they saw the tour come up, I said, "Oh, please, just if this can happen this time around." It has happened, so thank you. You're in my. You're certainly one of those fellas that was in my top 10. So it's been, I had Adrian Smith last week, to be honest, and now I've got you this week. So it's been a heck of a ride so far. Yeah.
Wow, putting me on the level up there, doing it right after him. That's fantastic. I love that. That's good news for me.
Well earned, mate. No worries. So it's all well earned. Yeah. So good luck with the tour. I know it's not going to be your last though, so we'll have plenty of more opportunities to see you. But I look forward to seeing you when you're on stage in Brisbane.
Make sure you say hello, and I'll see you at the show, and we'll throw a few cunts around.
Absolutely, mate. I'll be there. Thanks,
all right.
Mate. No worries.
All right, bye. We'll see you.
Gotcha.
Bye.
So there you have it. An excellent conversation with a fella that I'm going to nominate as the supreme metal and rock vocalist right now. I think he's pretty much got it all. I've seen him live, as you heard, and I think he's the bloke that has the most control over his tremendous talent, and he's able to deliver it as evidenced by performing Dio songs and Priest songs, and there's very few people that can do that the way he does it, that's for sure. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Regardless, it was just an opportunity to have a deep dive into his career and all of the people that he works with, and as I said up top, I think I've left more than enough left. There's more than enough left over to talk about when we next catch up, if that indeed does happen. All right, that's it from me. My name's Andrew Mackay Smith, and I'm the host of Scars and Guitars. Until the next one, it's a goodbye for now.